What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the show, man. Recap with Mo, where we're getting ready to get into another episode breakdown of Tyler Perry's Sistas. But before we get into this episode, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss shit snit that's going down, alright? So with that being said, man, let me go ahead and start it off like this. My apologies, man. The brother is out here on vacation, so if you hear some wind back in the back or some waves, that's what it is, all right? So when I get back home, it'll sound a whole lot different, all right? So let's go ahead and get into this episode. So the episode that we're going to talk about is Better Safe Than Sorry, episode number 5 of season 6. And the synopsis for this episode states that Karen's whereabouts are discovered. Fatima is disturbed by Zac's concern. Andi and Gary share a moment of complete honesty about where their current relationship status is. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this thing. Alright, so we start this episode exactly where we left off previously with Danni, Karen, Andi, and Sabrina at Andi's crib. So when we previously saw the women, they were at Andi's house smoking and drinking. Of course, not Karen, by the way, because she's pregnant, of course. But, of course, all the rest of the girls. So, anyhow, they're still talking about this whole situation about knowing who the baby's father is. Karen is talking about she's not going to let anybody know until she has the opportunity to speak to who that father is. Now, I'm under the assumption that the baby's father is Aaron, all right? And let me tell you why. I believe in Tyler Perry fashion, number one, that he's going to try to keep the drama coming, all right? So in order for the drama to keep coming, I mean, I can say it two ways. He can bring it through Zac and Fatima and that whole storyline, but honestly, I feel like he has to keep Aaron in the story somehow, some way, because if this isn't Aaron's baby, then what's the purpose of his storyline? He really doesn't have a storyline. And Tyler doesn't want to fire anybody, so he's going to keep Aaron in the loop somehow, some way. So I honestly believe that Aaron is going to be the baby's father. All right, that's just me. Anyhow, getting back to the story, Danny's like, what the hell is going on? Like, you need to tell me something. We thought your ass died or some shit, and you sitting up here not telling us nothing. Like, I need to know what's going on. Sabrina's like, oh, we're going to be aunties and all this. And Andy's sitting up here talking about, not me. I'm young and supple and all this shit. Like, hold on. Not fresh. Oh, man. Anyhow, man, let's move on. So from there, the girls leave, and they just leave Karen and Andi there to have their own little side conversation or whatnot. So when that happens, Karen is like, so do you want to know? Andi's like, I do, but I want you to just tell me later on when you're ready to convey that information to us. And she was like, you sure? She was like, yeah. So anyhow, Karen leaves. I'm going to go ahead and end that. Karen leaves, she goes home or whatnot, and when Karen leaves to go back to the crib, Andi picks up the phone. Obviously, Gary had called her numerous times, of course, because that's who he is, and Andi calls him back. So when Andi calls him back, Gary's like, hey, I've been trying to get in contact with you, and she was like, yeah, I was here with my girls. So he was like, well, can I come over? So once again, this is begging, and I told y'all, man, like, bro, women do not like that. Now, let me not speak for all women. That would not be right for me to categorize all women, right? So, all right, most women that I know do not like a begging ass. I'm just gonna say that, they see it sweet to a certain extent, but at some point it becomes, a deterrent. Like, women don't like that. So, at least the women that I know per se. So anyhow, so he was like, look, can I come over? She's telling him, well, I've been drinking and shit. I also been smoking a little bit. So he was like, okay. And she was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to say when you get over here. I'm just giving you a warning or whatnot. So he was like, okay, well, I'll see you later, pretty much. All right. And so from there, we see Sabrina and Danni. Now, let me be honest from the get-go. I honestly believe that this was a scene that we really did not need, or if we did need it, it didn't need to go on this long. I'm just being real. Honestly, I feel like it was a lot of fluff. But anyhow, since it's here, let's talk about it a little bit. Sabrina is driving her home, and Sabrina asked who she thought the father of the baby was. All right, and Danny's like, I believe it's Aaron, because those preachers seed, they ain't trying to run nowhere. They strong, they firm. So that's her thought. Sabrina's like, no, I believe it's Zac's. All right, and then she goes on to talk about her money situation. And she was like, no, I'm good. I got about $190,000 in the bank, which is intriguing to me. Now, if they were going to have anything about this scene, let's talk about this, all right? So in this scene, she conveys to Danny that she has $190,000. And Danny's like, shit, did you really rob the bank? She's like, are bank tellers and managers really making that damn... Are they really making that damn much? So that, she brought the comedy to it, but at the same time, let's talk about it, y'all. So she brings up the fact that Bio is trying to help her with her money decisions. Danny's like, don't trust that shit. And I'm with Danny on this because we still don't know a whole lot about Bio. We know that he claims to be a prince and all of that, but we also don't know anything on the other side of Bio. We've never seen his storyline or anything. All we know is the two women were in the grocery store. They was talking about, oh, it's her, it's her, it's her. Can we take a picture? We don't even know if that all was set up. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? So if he is a multi-millionaire, it could be off of scheming other folks, specifically gullible women, which right now, that would be Sabrina. Because we already know that the elevator doesn't float that high to them. Oh man. So going on from there, man, we see Pam. Pam is calling Karen to check in on her. Of course, Karen still has a slight attitude towards Pam because she feels like it was her fault anyway that she had to end up at the hair salon, which, you know how I feel about Pam and her professionalism. I'm not really going to keep going into that. But also at the same time, Karen is still talking about, well, where you going to go, Pam, if I fire you? So she still ain't going to let her go. After all of this shit, after all the arguing, after all the tears or no tears at all from the previous episode, she still ain't going to let her go. So it is what it is. So anyhow, she was like, you need to call Zac. And I was like, damn, Pam, like, why would you keep putting that in her head? And she was like, well, you saw the way he was looking at her, or looking at you or whatnot. And she was like, yeah, I saw it. She was like, well, you need to call him, and you definitely need to call him before Fatima shows up. And Karen is like, damn, yeah, okay, I'm going to have to let you go. So we putting it out there that Karen is still feeling some type of way about Zac. And when that embrace happened multiple times with Zac at the salon, it really rekindled some shit, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Or was it already there? Shit, let's be honest. That shit was already there. She been trying to get back with Zac, but she knew that Fatima was a barrier. And now at this point, with Zac giving her the go ahead, she feel like, hey, let me go ahead and try to swoop in and see if I can get this back. That's all it is, man. Anyhow, so we head up over to Maurice's crib, where when he comes into the apartment, he sees Calvin caressing the couch. All right, it looks like it was an orange couch from back in the day. I'm not sure. It may be up to date. That ain't my color scheme, so I don't know. But so when he comes in, Maurice is like, what the hell is this? He was like, oh, this is my sofa that, I had up in storage, and I decided to bring it over here or whatnot. Well, Maurice is like, well, you can take it back. First and foremost, Maurice, like Calvin stated, bro, you have nothing. Right now, you have nothing to sit your ass down on. You might want to just be cool and just say, okay, thank you for the gesture. All right, and go ahead and just sit your ass down somewhere and then complain later. So he's talking about, Calvin is like, okay, look, where you been? Because you just showing up. Maurice says, hey, I told you I was going to see Q. And he was like, look, I told you not to do that because you're going to end up sit around here and make shit worse. Maurice was like, no. He was like, no, y'all didn't know how to do it. He said, I already done beat his ass once. He said, no. Scratching our eyes and shit, that ain't no beat. Because we already know Calvin ain't that type of one. He ain't that dude that's going to sit up here and do it down like that. At the end of the day, though, he did put one down on Q with that one golf club, right, that he left him. You know what I'm saying? So, credit to Calvin for doing that. And if Sabrina wasn't there, possibly he would have done it through, all the way. But anyhow, moving on from there, Maurice is like, look, I'm going to make that man tell, what I need to, what he needs to say so we can clear our names or whatnot. But honestly, I feel at this point that Maurice needs to just listen to the voices within telling him to cease, all right? Because I've worked in the banking industry before when I was in college and whatnot, and this is what I know for sure. When you're in the banking industry, once they have a question mark over your name, that question mark is always there. It doesn't matter if you cleared your name, if you were short $20, you were short $200, that question mark is always out there. Now, if it was an error, that's different. But in a situation like this or a situation like this, I'm going to just say it like that, bro, it's going to be hard as hell to clear your name at this point, Maurice. Like, yeah, you might not go to prison, but you definitely may be looking for a new job. Definitely. Because that bank really sees you as you're not an asset anymore. You are a liability because the question mark is on your head. Anyhow, moving on from there, we see Preston. Now, this was the oddest story to me. Preston shows up at Zac's crib. Now, it's not odd because it's not like they haven't spoken before. I know, Zac was coaching him a little bit on how to win Danni and shit like that, but for Preston just to show up out of thin air and come over and just check in on Zac, maybe he was just doing the brotherly thing, right? Let me just chalk it up as that. So he goes over to see Zac, and he's like, hey, I'm just checking in on you. Zac is like, I'm good, bro. Like, why did you have to show up? And Preston is saying all the shit that we were saying. He was like, look, we saw the whole shit that went down, and I'm just trying to make sure you're good. And, he was like, what you talking about? He was like, I saw the look on Fatima's face, like she was pissed off. We saw the look on your face. And he was like, look, she almost died, bro. She almost died, Bro, like, we get that, but your whole emotion, that whole emotional hug, that multiple hug situation shit that you did, Zac, was uncalled for. I get it. I heard both sides of the argument. At the same time, Preston is speaking like we are. And he was like, look, we saw Fatima, we saw her face, we saw her body language. She was pissed off. She was not pleased by what she saw from Zac. And that's true. So anyhow, Preston is like, I'm just trying to make sure. So they go on and they have a little back and forth talking about, coaching and all that stuff. Preston is like, look, I'm not going to be trying to get no advice from you because you know how it went down the last time, that you tried to give me advice and whatnot. He was like, yeah. So anyhow, moving on from there, we see Gary. Now he's over at, let me step back real quick. So after old boy Preston leaves Zac's crib, he goes on and he calls Fatima like she gonna pick up. Come on, bro. He was like, listen, I've been trying to get in contact with you, just hit me back. Bro, are you that dumb? Are you that dumb, bro? He ain't ready to be married, y'all. I'm just trying to tell you, he is not ready to be married at all. He doesn't get women. I'm just trying to tell you. Anyhow, let's move on. So, Gary comes over to Andy's crib. Well, his crib, or vice versa. Whichever one, whoever's name is on it. So, Andy talks about how it was crazy that she and the girls were arguing, and it just was over petty shit and all of that. And he was like, yeah. And she was sitting here like, it just wasn't worth it. All that shit wasn't worth it. It's so much going on, and we're bigger than this, and I really don't have to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? So Gary, who's sitting here, he didn't come over for all of that. He came over to get in them draws. Let's call it for what it is. But when Andi starts talking like that, he was like, okay, so where are you going with this at this point? So it was like, look, I'm just saying, pretty much, frankly, I'm too old for this shit. You too old for this shit. And right now we playing games with one another. And it is what I've been saying this whole damn time, people, family. It is what I've been saying. She been allowing this bro to come over, break her back out, because it was good. You know what I'm saying? And she pointed up the fact that she was lonely and she just wanted his attention because she needed something to fulfill that loneliness that she was feeling. And it made him feel yay small. I was like, damn. I was like, shit. All right. So he was like, huh? So I'm sorry. So Gary, you've been doing all this shit. You've been paying her bills. You've been buying her houses. You've been buying her cars, bro. And she sits up here and tell you, bro, that I was just allowing you to stick around because the D was good. All right, man. You good, Gary? So now his feelings are hurt. His feelings are hurt, right? So he's sitting up here like, oh no, that's just the liquor talking and whatnot. Like, that's not you. I'm gonna let you sober up, bro. We all know that when people get liquored up, they tell the truth about shit they would probably conceal if they were in their right state of mind. So right now, these are her true thoughts. Plus, she done had some of that green in her system as well, bro. Like, you might as well get over it. You've been suckered. You've been sucker punched. You are not being pranked right now. She's telling you the real on how she feels about you and all the garbage, because she said you bringing all this baggage to the table. And I've told you from the get-go, bro, it's not going to fare well for Gary. Anyhow, man, let's move on from there because he don't want to be touched. He don't want to be talked about. He don't want So let's go ahead and move on, man. So from there, we see another petty dude coming into the door. So Aaron comes over to see Karen. Now, this is my problem, bro. She already told you that I will call you when I'm ready to talk to you. For some reason, you keep showing up. Why does Tyler have these begging asses on this show? Like, if a woman tells me that she don't want to talk to me, I'll holler at you, whatnot. It is what it is, man. It's plenty of fish in the sea. Like, what are we doing? Like, oh, man. Anyhow, so he comes over. Of course, she lets him in. He's like, well, number one, he embraces her. Like, he's just so happy to see her and all this stuff. And then he's like, I just wanted to come over and check in on you. But also, I wanted to talk to you about that whole Jenny from the block situation. And I want you to know that shit would never happen again. And Karen is like, yeah, it definitely won't happen again because I don't have no salon right now. Enough of that. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Karen is like, look, I don't want to do this no more. Aaron is like, what you talking about? She was like, look, you seem like this nice dude. You seem like you gaslighting a whole lot of shit right now. You lighting up good right now. And I don't want to be part of this, and I don't want to be that craziness that you keep bringing to the table, essentially. Aaron's like, look, I know okay, let's just talk about it, you know what I'm saying? And look, bro, you are still trying to get in her good graces. Look, this review is going to be very short, y'all. As you can already tell, number one, I'm on the beach. Secondly, there was a whole lot of bullshit in this episode. So, anyhow, moving on from there, she pretty much tells his ass he can leave. And then all before he left, he conveyed to her who the homeless man was that got burned down in her shop. His name was, James Timms or something like that. And she was like, well, how did you find that out? And he was like, oh, Gary told me about it. He made a few calls and he was able, I guess he called the mayor again. So anyhow, man. So now we head over to Zac. Now, this was a crazy situation right here because I already knew that it was going to go down. in this fashion, definitely from the trailer that we've, seen previously. So Karen calls Zac up to thank him for being there, and you can already tell that this conversation was going to go left very quickly. So she starts off by telling him, like, I'm glad you showed up, and he was like, yeah, we really thought it was bad, and I was just glad to hear your voice and see you. And she was like, well, I thought you were going to be mad at me and whatnot. And he was like, no, I'm not mad at you, Karen. I love you, Karen. I've always loved you and will always love you. I was like, where are you going, LL Cool J? Like, what are you doing? Like, do you have a whole fiance that you got a ring on that you done spent a grip on? Or are you trying to get back with Karen? Because it seems like you spend a whole lot of game right now, bro. But anyhow, she was like, yeah, so when you was talking about, helping me get the salon rebuilt, were you serious about that? He was like, yeah, hell yeah, I was serious about that. Now, he's still talking like that until, he's talking about love, 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 and then he sees Fatima show up in the background. Now, all of a sudden, his whole body language changes and shit. His lingo changes. He can't say shit. He's tongue-tied. What the hell was going on, Zac? Either you gonna go all in with Karen, or are you just gonna hold back and just wait, till Fatima goes back out and reverses out the door and then finish your conversation? Because at this point, it seems like you're not man enough to have that conversation in front of your fiance, so you possibly should not be doing that while she's not in your presence. If you're gonna be a real man about the situation, just go ahead and own up to the shit. I've said this numerous times. For some reason, he just cannot get that through his head, all right? So anyhow, when he gets off the phone, before he gets off the phone, Karen is like, well, I love you or whatnot. He was like, yeah, okay. And she was like, oh, is Fatima there? He was like, yeah. She was like, oh, yeah, she definitely there because you can't say shit. Exactly, Zac. So, look, bro, either you're going to do it or you're not. And obviously, you're not man enough to, speak your mind about this situation. So anyhow, when he gets off the phone, he's trying to come up on Fatima. Fatima ain't trying to be up on you, bro. She ain't trying to feel no affection from you because you done gave all your love away. Remember, you passionately hugged old girl multiple times out here. Like, you done gave all your love away, homie. So anyway, he was like, hey, you want me to whoop, whoop, whoop and whatnot? And pretty much Fatima ain't saying shit back to him. So anyhow, listen, that was pretty much it about this episode. It's pretty much nothing else to talk about in this episode. It was what it was, man. And like I said, it went down sort of like what I predicted. And I actually did not upload the full version of my recap of the previous episode. I may upload it this weekend. Yeah, man. Tell me your thoughts. What did you think about this episode? What did you think could have went down differently? Do you even believe that Andi is going to stand her ground against Gary? Or do you think this is some hogwash and she was just looking up too much to really grasp everything she was saying or whatnot? And then this whole situation with Aaron, do you think he's the baby's father, or do you think it's Zac that's the baby's father? Like, how do you think or predict this is going to go down? Anyway, I will holler at you guys later on, man, and we'll have a whole lot more to talk about. Peace.